Recording is on.
And here we go.
Let's talk about something that ain't dangerous. How about this? Some things may be a little strange for us, but listen to this.
Yeah, we could start a new direction, affecting the future ahead, spreading smiles for miles, a new kind of trend.
Want a new style? How about this? Let's talk about something that's courageous. How about this?
Let's talk about something that's outrageous.
Put this at the top of your list.
Yeah, we could start a new direction, affecting the future ahead.
Spreading smiles for miles, a new kind of trend. Want a new style? Hey.
How about this?
Come on, hit me up with the pickup, y'all.
You're stuck and gonna sit at home.
Live it up, live it up, live it up for me.
You're not alone. We can live this world on warranty. Pick it up, just pick it up. Take this shot with me.
I'm not getting it.
Smile, not something else. Cause this world really needed your help. Smile and nothing more. We'll surely get you installed. You want to smile? How about this?
Oh, yeah.
Live it up with me. We can live this world on warranty. Pick it up, just pick it up, take this shot with me. How about this?
Hello. I love this song. You know, every. Hello. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Fun.
Pretty good here in Texas.
All right. So I hope this was a good week for everyone, and let's get some tech in to make next week even a better one. So I chose today to discuss with you an essay from LRH on the death of consciousness. Maybe you want to, I don't know if I can mute your mics. Let's see. Oh, I can mute everyone. Okay, I'm going to mute your mics, but you can unmute if you want to say something. I'll mute them while I'm reading the essay, so this way you guys can hear me better. All right. Okay, so I have muted you guys, but you can hear me, I assume. Just, okay, excellent. Very good, thank you. On the death of consciousness, where does one cease to survive and begin to succumb? The point of demarcation is not death as we know it. It is marked by what one might call the death of the consciousness of the individual. Man's greatest weapon is his reason. Lacking the teeth, the armor plate, hide, the claws of so many other life forms, man has relied upon his ability to reason in order to further himself in his survival. The selection of the ability to think as a chief weapon is a fortunate one. It has awarded man with the kingdom of earth. Reason is an excellent weapon. The animal with his teeth, with his armor plate hide, with his long claws, is fixed with weapons he cannot alter. He cannot adjust to a changing environment. And it is terribly important to survive, to change when the environment changes. Every extinct species became extinct because it could not change to control a new environment. Reason remedies this failure to a marked extent. For man can invent new tools and new weapons and a whole new environment. Reason permits him to change to fit new situations. Reason keeps him in control of new environments. Any animal that simply adjusts itself to match its environment is doomed. Environments change rapidly. Animals which control and change the environment have the best chance to survive. The only way you can organize a collective state is to convince men that they must adjust and adapt themselves like animals to a constant environment. The people must be deprived of the right to control, as individuals, their environment. Then they can be regimented and herded into groups. They become owned, not owners. Reason and the right to reason must be taken from them, for the very center of reason is the right to make up one's own mind about one's environment. The elements fight man, and man fights man. The primary target of the enemies of man, or a man, is his right and ability to reason. The crude and blundering forces of the elements, storms, cold, and night, bear down against, challenge, and then mayhap crush the reason as well as the body. But just as unconsciousness always precedes death, even by instance, so does the death of reason precede the death of the organism. And this action may happen in a long span of time, even half a lifetime, even more. Have you watched the high alertness of a young man breasting the forces which oppose life? And watched another in old age? You will find that what he has suffered has been the ability to reason. He has gained hard-won experience, and on this experience he seeks from middle age on to travel. It is a truism that youth thinks fast on little experience, and that age thinks slowly on much. The reason of youth is very far from always right, for youth is attempting to reason without adequate data. Suppose we had a man who had retained all his ability to reason and yet had a great deal of experience. Suppose our gray beards, I'll give that to you again. Suppose our gray beards could think with all the enthusiasm and vitality of youth and yet had all their experience as well. Age says to youth, you have no experience. Youth says to age, you have no vision. You will not accept or even examine new ideas. Obviously, an ideal arrangement would be for one to have the experience of age and the vitality and vision of youth. And may have said to yourself, with all my experience now, what wouldn't I give for some of the enthusiasm I had once? Or perhaps you have excused it all by saying you have lost your illusions. But you aren't sure that they were illusions. Our brightness in life, quick enthusiasm, a desire and will to live, a belief in destiny, and these things illusions? Or are they symptoms of the very stuff of which vital life is made? And isn't their decline a symptom of death? Knowledge does not destroy a will to live. Pain and loss of self-determinism destroy that will. And by self-determinism, we mean that state of being whereby the individual can or cannot be controlled by his environment according to his own choice. Life can be painful. The gaining of experience is often painful. The retaining of that experience is essential. But isn't it still experience if it doesn't yet have the pain? Suppose you could wipe out of your life all the pain, physical and otherwise, which you have accumulated. Would it be so terrible to have to part with a broken heart or a psychosomatic illness with fears and anxieties and dreads? Suppose a man had the chance again, with all he knows, to look life and the universe in the eye again and say it could be whipped. Do you recall a day when you were younger and you walked to find bright dew sparkling on the grass, the leaves, to find the golden sun bright upon a happy world? Do you recall how beautiful and fine this once was? The first sweet kiss? The warmth of true friendship? The intimacy of a moonlight ride? What made it become otherwise than a brilliant world? The consciousness of the world around one is not an absolute thing. One can be more conscious of color and brightness and joy at one time of life than another. One can more easily feel the brilliant reality of things in youth that he can in age. And is this something like a decline of consciousness of awareness? What is it that makes one less aware of the brilliance of the world around him? Has the world changed? No, for each new generation sees the glamour and the glory, the vitality of life, the same life that age may see as dull at best. The individual changes. And what makes him change? It is a decay of his glands and sinus? Hardly for all the work that has been done on glands and sinus, the structure of the body has restored little, if any, of the brilliance of living. Oh, youth, sighs the adult, if I but had your zest again. What reduced that zest? As one consciousness of the brilliance of life declines, so has declined his own consciousness. Awareness decreases exactly as consciousness decreases. The ability to perceive the world around one and the ability to draw accurate conclusions about it are, to all intents, the same thing. Glasses are a symptom of the decline of consciousness. One needs his sight bolstered to make the world look brighter. The loss of the ability to move swiftly as one ran when he was a child is a decline of consciousness and ability. Complete unconsciousness is death. Half unconsciousness is half death. A quarter unconsciousness is a quarter of death. And as one accumulates the pain attendant upon life and fails to accumulate the pleasures, one gradually loses his race with a gentleman with a scythe. And there ensues at last the physical incapacity of seeing, thinking, and being, known as death. Death is life's operation of disposing of an outmoded and unwanted organism so that new organisms can be born and flourish. Life itself does not die. Only the physical organism dies. Not even a personality apparently dies. Death, then, in truth, is a limited concept of the death of the physical part of the organism. Life and the personality apparently go on. The physical part of the organism ceases to function, and that is death. When an organism reaches a point where it is only half conscious, where it is only perceiving half as well as it should, where it is functioning only half as well as it should, death begins. The organism thereafter will take action to hasten death. It does this unconsciously, but it's in its aberrated state. Such a mind will also bring death to other organisms. Thus, a half-conscious organism is a menace to others. Here is the accident-prone, the fascist, the person who seeks to dominate, the selfish and self-seeking person. Here is an organism outward bound. When an organism reaches a point where it is only a third alive, a third conscious, it is perceiving only a third of what it might. Life even further hastens the death of this organism and those around it. Here is the suicide, here is the person who is continually ill, who refuses to eat. Organisms which are outward bound toward death sometimes require years and years to die. For the organism experiences resurgences and still has some small desire to go on living. And other organisms help it to live. It is carried along by the tide of life, even though its individual direction is toward death, death for others, and death for self, and death for the physical universe around it. Organisms which have passed the halfway point will take extraordinary measures and means to bring about death for others and for things and for self. Here we have the Hitlers, the criminals, the distractively neurotic. Give a person who has passed this point a car to drive, and the car may become involved in an accident. Give him money, and the money will go to purchase non-survival things. But we must not emphasize the dramatic and forget the important like the newspapers do. The action and urge towards death becomes noticeable only when it is very dramatic. It is most dangerous, however, in its undramatic forms. A person who has passed the halfway point brings death to things and people on a small scale at all times. A house left dirty, appointments not kept, clothing not cared for, vicious gossip, carping criticism of others for their own good. These are all turbulences which bring failure, and too many failures bring death. And it should not be supposed that by halfway point one means halfway through life. It means half conscious, half alive, half or less perceiving and thinking. A child may be suppressed to this level by his parents and school. And indeed, children quite ordinarily drop below that half point. So defeated do they become in their environment and in their contest with life. Age is no criterion, but physical health is. The surest manifestation that someone has passed the halfway point is physical condition. The chronically ill have passed it. If one is to have a secure society, then if one is to rid a society of its death factors, one must have some means of salvaging people and bringing them back into a state of full consciousness. Full consciousness would mean full recognition of one's responsibilities, his relationship with others, his care of himself and of society. How can such a thing be achieved? If you could achieve it, you could raise a social order to hitherto unattainable heights, and you could empty the prisons and insane asylums. You could make a world too sane for war, and people could be made well who have never had the means of it before, and people could be happy who have never truly known what happiness was. You could raise the goodwill and efficiency of all men and all social orders if you could restore the vitality of these people. In Scientology, we know how the consciousness, the vitality, the will to live become reduced. And through Scientology processing, full consciousness can be restored to the individual. To learn more about how full consciousness can be attained, read Self-Analysis. This book will answer your questions about survival and provide methods to improve your spiritual awareness. You can unmute your mics if you like. I cannot unmute your mics after I mute all. So for you to talk, you have to unmute your mic. But oh my God, what an amazing sermon. And I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to do that, but I would like this sermon today, of course, to dedicate it to everyone who's attending and who is not attending. But also I want to give a very special happy birthday dedication to Tim McClellan, who I chose this sermon specifically for him because he is a very, very alive human being. So I wanted to just acknowledge him with this sermon and say happy birthday. All right.
Happy birthday.
So what do you guys think? Any comments?
I thought it was great. What can I tell you?
Yeah. so applicable. Huh? Yeah. All right. So any wins that you guys would like to share that you had this past week? I'll share with you a win. So today, at some point, after my series of sessions I had this morning, I experienced walking out there something very, very special, which was a oh, I'm sorry. You know what, Sal? You know something, Sal? We cannot hear you, man. I know you're texting me, but we cannot hear you. You have to unmute yourself. I know you're trying to speak, but I don't know. I won't be able to unmute you, but you can unmute. I'm trying to unmute you guys, but the system says that I cannot unmute you, that you have to unmute yourself. So Sal, Sal, can you speak? Can you try to speak? You have to unmute yourself, though, because we cannot hear you. You have to click the unmute. Okay, Sal, we cannot hear you, man. You are unmuted, you say. Oh, boy. Wendy?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, the same thing just happened with me. I had to hang up and call back in so that, because I was unmuted, but nobody could hear me for some reason.
Oh, okay. So, guys,
So
you can hang up and log in again to get unmuted. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say just that quote is such a testament to the bridge, because you hear people that go up the bridge and they talk about oh, I feel young again, I feel like a kid again, but their decisions are still so much more informed. It's not like they wise up completely, but they also gain that youth, and it's just exactly what he's talking about. So it's really cool to see in people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because if you think about this, as you go up the bridge, you attain greater levels of awareness, greater levels of consciousness. Yeah. And that greater awareness, that greater consciousness helps you become more alive, right?
Right.
So that's the bottom line here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can you hear me now, Demi?
Yes. Sorry about that.
I had to hang up because I couldn't hear you either for a minute. Anyway, what I was saying is, in Christian circles, they say God loves character, not talent. And I'm going to get to the punchline. And in some circles where I've taken music classes or in college, the teacher would say it's not the talent, it's the level of consciousness or conscious level. And what happens is, the more your conscious level rises, right? Even when you die, you're aware. That's why we got to get rid of the reactive mind, because people are so stuck in talking about yesterday, what was, not what is. We even when a guy drops his body, it is, and then he can move on and not be stuck and go, that was, but he's not that anymore.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Very, very well said, my friend. Very well said. Now that Sal spoke and I feel better that I did not interrupt, I can continue with the win that I was telling you. So I had a long walk after this bunch of sessions that I had, and I experienced the most amazing exteriorization I have ever felt in a totally, I don't know if I say controlled manner. I was as much exterior as I wanted to be. And I still am to some degree. It's amazing. I cannot express with actual words how I have been feeling since this morning, but something has completely broken through, and I have this tremendous flow of communication with my 7th and 8th dynamics. I'm a happy man right now. I can tell you that. Oh, gosh. Thank you. All right. Anybody else would like to share something?
Well, I've been doing the first American ACC, and it's totally amazing. It's like Ron's gone to a whole new level. You know, he talks about space and anchor points, and when you go ahead and you blame somebody for something, you know, you put an anchor point there, and it's you. You know, you're making them cause, but he explains it from a whole new viewpoint. And I mean, this is stuff everybody should do. I didn't realize how good this stuff was until, you know, I really got into this, and it's phenomenal. I thought there was no end, you know, when you finish the basics. I thought there was an end when you finish the basics. That was it. But the ACCs, they're a whole new level, and they're just totally wonderful. So people should just jump on them and move up as quickly as you can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else to share anything else besides announcements, before announcements? Okay. All right. So before we get to do announcements, I am going to play this little video with you, for you.
What is true for you is what you have observed yourself. And when you lose that, you have lost everything. What is personal integrity? Personal integrity is knowing what you know. What you know is what you know. And to have the courage to know and say what you have observed. And that is integrity. And there is no other integrity. Of course, we can talk about honor, truth, nobility, all these things as esoteric terms. But they would all be covered very well if what we really observed was what we observed, that we took care to observe what we were observing, that we always observed to observe, and not necessarily maintaining a skeptical attitude, a critical attitude, or an open mind. Not necessarily maintaining these things at all, but certainly maintaining sufficient personal integrity and sufficient personal belief and confidence in self and courage that we can observe what we observe and say what we have observed. Nothing in Scientology is true for you unless you have observed it. And it is true according to your observation. That is all.
So,
Did we know splitting it between the two?
okay, we're back. And announcements.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, so obviously tonight at 6:30, we have a New York Alliance event with Michael Chen will be speaking, and we have excellent performances occurring. So we want to make sure everybody is there and you get your friends and others to come to this. It's going to be amazing. There was a specific request from Michael Chen to be our speaker, and then I pushed very hard to get him because I really want people to be able to get some tech from some of these guys, things that they can do and use right now. And then, of course, tomorrow evening at 6:30, we will have OT committee meeting, and that will be on the GoToMeeting site. That's all I have.
Along that, let me just say that everyone who is attending or tonight at the event, or anyone who you know that is attending the event, please text their actual names to Wendy, because from what I understand from an email that we received earlier today, they will only allow people to come into the meeting whose their names have been recorded as attending the event. So, okay, Mitch?
Yeah, we're distributing the VM booklets, which is a program directly from COB, and there's a lot to do. We need people's help. Leanne is running the program, but you can call me. We're going out and distributing the booklets to businesses, 3-man teams, and we're trying to get it throughout the whole org's area. So when the org does reopen, which I think will be shortly, we'll have our name out there all over the place, doing something which is very helpful to the community. So please, call me, call Leanne. We need a lot more help on this. There's a lot of booklets to get done. We're doing it today. We're going to be doing it until we're finished. And, you have time on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever, call, let us know. We certainly need more help. The other thing is extension courses. Man, they're wonderful, and you get on them, do them intensively. You'll have the greatest wins. So get yourself going on that. Call me if you're interested in one. I can tell you more about it or get you signed up. It's not going to, you might as well get it. The more knowledge you've got of the subject, the better, and how much quicker your auditing and your training are going to go. So it's imperative to get this knowledge. It's the knowledge of this universe. It's totally worthwhile. It's stuff you need to operate with. It's amazing stuff. All right, so that's it for me.
Thank you, Mitch. Wendy?
Yeah, I had a question. Mitch said that he thinks that the org is going to be opening as early as this week. Did you hear something?
I didn't say this week, but we've done preparations in the org for a limited opening. And I've been told that the org will be opening soon. I have not been told when it will be opening. That's, up to management, but we've cleaned the org. We've put up signs. We've set up social distancing. So,
okay.
I expect it's not going to be too long, so, but I don't know exactly when. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just curious. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Any other comments, any questions about anything before I close with the Scientology prayer for total freedom? All right, here we go. May the author of the universe enable all to reach an understanding of their spiritual nature. May awareness and understanding of life expand so that all may come to know the author of the universe. And may others also reach this understanding, which brings total freedom. At this time, we think of those whose liberty is threatened, of those who have suffered imprisonment for their beliefs, of those who are enslaved or martyred, and for all those who are brutalized, trapped, or attacked. We pray that human rights will be preserved so that all people may believe and worship freely, so that freedom will once again be seen in our land. Freedom from war and poverty and want, freedom to be, freedom to do, and freedom to have. Freedom to use and understand man's potential, a potential that is God-given, God-like. Freedom to achieve that understanding and awareness that is total freedom. May God let it be so. So thank you all for attending today's Sunday service. And we'll see you guys next Sunday at 12. Remember all of the events that are taking place, especially today's event at 6:30 p.m. Log in earlier, around 3:30, to just test your computers. And ask somebody else to join us also tonight and also next Sunday service. Okay, thank you all and have an awesome week. Bye-bye. To LRH.
Thank you, Dimi.